Alright all, and welcome back to my Game Boy Grand Prix Series episode 9, where, in my opinion, I'm going to make one of the ultimate Game Boy Colors I could ever think of. Now, again, this is my own version of it, and this is what would, if was around when I was a kid, if it was like that then, it would absolutely blow my mind with mods and technology and that kind of lovely stuff. Now, if you cast your minds back, Game Boy 8 is the one that we're using for this episode, because we're doing them in order, which was this lovely see-through shell. And the reason of the damage, we couldn't get it to turn on in the original video, is we've got the eroded slash very, very well damaged battery connector there, which is on the actual shell, I believe, rather than the board itself. It's got a bit of a scratchy screen, and we couldn't get it turned on to test, but I'm hoping that once we give it a good clean, move things around a bit, it'll start working again. Now, the reason I'm so excited about this is, like I said, I wanted to make the ultimate Game Boy, and like I've said in other videos, I like to have a theme. The theme for this one, Pokemon Red. Basically, I started picking up Pokemon Red again. It's not normally one of them games I play once a year. That's normally reserved for like Pokemon Silver, but this is a game I play quite regularly in that sense. And I know the Game Boy Color is known more for, like, you know, your Pokemon Silver, your Pokemon Gold, your Pokemon Crystal, but people really seem to favour the Pokemon Red, and I wanted to make a really nice Game Boy that kind of matched this kind of style of game. Now, what I'm going to do, which is a bit different to some of my other videos, is I'm going to go through all the parts now that I'm going to be using, so you can kind of follow along as I go, rather than jumping straight to like a cleaning montage, as is tradition at this point. So, very quickly, as mentioned, I did have a theme for this. All these parts are from Retro 6, that I've been using them for. Now, what I've also got here is the shell, the rubbers. So we're going to be using some lovely red rubbers as well to go under the shell, and some also matching clear red buttons. Now that's all well and good. What you basically saying to me now is, John, how is that an ultimate edition? How is that like fantastic or anything like that? Now, this is where it's going to get good. So, you might have seen these before. So, starting off, one of the mods we're going to be making that I've not actually made before is a clean power. A clean power regulator. God, that's a mouthful. What this will basically do is kind of clean the energy up in the Game Boy Color and allow it so if you had batteries in the Game Boy Color, it's going to be using less draw, less power. So your batteries would actually last longer. Thus, the device would last longer in general. Now, weirdly enough, we're not going to be using traditional batteries in this console. What we're going to be using is one of these. Now, that's the wrong way around. That might make a bit more sense. Now, we're going to be using a ClearJuice wireless battery. So, this absolutely blew my mind when I actually found out that you can make these kind of mods to Game Boy Colors, and actually quite easily. So, again, from Retro 6, what this basically allows you to do is charge your Game Boy Color with the actual battery here wirelessly, as if you could a modern day phone or any other device like that, a wireless charging Game Boy, which, yeah, absolutely blows my mind, which is going to be really, really fun. Another big thing is I completely shelled out on this screen. So, this has got a few parts to it, but we'll go over this is the main bit here. So this is the Q5 IPS screen for the Game Boy Color. As far as I'm aware, it's one of the better, newest screens you can get for them right now. It's like 15% bigger. It's the whole IPS deal. It's going to look fantastic. You can have all the really mental stuff that's going on at the moment now, or at least over the past year or two, with Game Boy Color screens, which is they have an onboard menu, so you can change the colours dynamically. You can have a pixel mode, so it looks all old-fashioned and all that lovely stuff. I've even got a kind of screen shell to match. It's a transparent one as well. Don't know if you can see that too well if I put a different colour behind it like that. There we go. So it's transparent, so that'll reflect through kind of the red, and that's going to look absolutely amazing. I've also spared the additional expense, which was only about £2 something, to have a IPS screen bracket, which will allow me to just position it fantastically, so we don't have any, you know, when you're spending this much on a screen and this much on a Game Boy, the last thing you want is your screen to be slightly skew riff and it just looks awful and nobody wants it. And then a few other little things. So obviously, because it's a new shell for a Game Boy Color, we're going to stick a new sticker on it. Nothing special, just standard stock sticker. I'm not too keen on the ones that have characters on or anything special. I quite like just the default black ones. And then something I bought that I realised might be really stupid. So a little red LED for the power on and off. But I realised as I bought it, and since everything's going to be all red, it will always look red, which some people may think that always means the battery's going to die. But there you go, hindsight's an horrible thing. So they're kind of the parts I'm going to be using. What we're going to do, or what I'm going to do, you're going to sit here and watch, hopefully, while I do all the hard work. I want to start taking this apart, giving it a good clean and having an inspect, and I'll update the video if I find anything. If not, we should be all good, and it should be a nice cleaning montage. That was quick, or at least it was more quick for you guys than it was for me. But anyway, so what I'm going to do now is just to double check that everything's all good and the board all works. Is I'm going to just put it back into its front bit of the shell, put the screen back together in its little ribbon cable that you should be really careful about to not break. I mean, we're not using the screen for this build anyway, but it doesn't matter, we could use it for a different build. I'm gonna very cheekily just put the red one on, oops, just so I can give it the quickest of tests. I just want to know that if it'll power on and everything, all that kind of gubbins. I'm gonna stick some mega cheap batteries in because that's how we do it here, and hopefully, oops, the power buttons fell out as usual. Let's just flick that across. And that's exactly what I wanted to see. I hear sound, I hear sound, I see the screen. It looks like it was literally just that battery contact had eroded. Now very quickly what I'm going to do as one last test is place Pokemon Red in here and turn it back on. Yep, it's found the game. That is good. And all that lovely stuff seems to be working and doing what it should be. Quiet. Yeah, it looks to all be working. I'm going to guess the controls are all working and whatnot. Yeah, but now that it's all clean and it all seems to be working okay, we can start putting the mods in place. Now, first things first is I think I'm going to add this new power regulator on. I'm pretty sure we have to take something out of it to put this one in. So let's jump to doing that. Okay, so I've got my soldering iron here, and I'm all zoomed in to kind of show you the area that I will be kind of working on. So the power regulator on a Game Boy Color is this thing here, and to desolder it, which is what we're going to be doing, you just need to get rid of the 4 soldering points on this side, the 3 soldering points on this side, and then, don't know if you can see it too well on this, but they actually match up exactly the same as what's on the board there. So it's not actually that messy, it's not that hard to do really, as long as you're comfortable soldering. But we're going to go ahead and desolder these now. I've got also, if I reload it, because that's the real term for pumping a desoldering gun. I've just got an air powered desoldering gun here, so what I can do is once I've got the soldering the solder hot, I can just, and that should suck it all up lovely jubbly. So let's get on with this. Let's get these desoldered and then get the new power regulator on. And there we go, managed to get that soldered in pretty well, or well, at least pretty well for me. that looks like it's all working well. It all looks like it's going to work well. I better not just jinx it, but that's all in there. I took the original power regulator off, which is this little thing here, which I've never known a Game Boy Color power regulator go and, like, I don't know, burn out or be damaged or anything, but I'm definitely going to keep it for if I need it in the future. It's worth noting that if you plan to do the clean power without putting an IPS screen, like a modern screen in, it's best, and I think it's recommended because otherwise it won't work, so it's a very good recommendation that you actually leave this in behind it, so you don't need to desolder it if you're just going to use the original screen, and then just solder the Clean Juice one in. Now, I'm happy with that. I think the next thing, let's have a look, what else did I get to go on this lovely thing? I think the only other kind of like hard mod we've got to go next is somewhere over here on my desk of crap, is the IPS screen. Now, we're going to do that one next, and then I think, oh, actually, do you know what? No, I'm lying to you. I'm absolutely lying to you. What we're going to do next is our lovely red, if I again look over my table of crap, we're going to fit the LED, so we've got a nice red LED to go over the power, which should just be a nice little bit of easy soldering, kind of like what I did with the power regulator there, just using the desoldering pump to get the desolder out and apply some new and just put that in, and then just give the ends of this a bit of a snip snip. Let's go. There we go. Now that we've got this new LED fitted, this hopefully lovely red one, we'll now move on to the exciting part, which is this amazing Q5 IPS screen, which I'm really looking forward to. And I'm going to start priming the board for the screen with some solder ready to just attach the these things over here. So just the wires so they can connect to the A, the B, and the select, so then we can control the screen and like the brightness and lots of lovely stuff like that. So okay, so now that they've kind of been primed with a bit of solder, I'm just going to start attaching the wires. Now with the screen all sorted, we can start kind of assembling it a bit better. So what I'm going to do is I bought this little bracket system here. Now what will this help me do at least is perfectly align the the bracket, so it's, you know, the screen, sorry, so the screen doesn't kind of look off in any way, or, you know, sometimes you find with, especially if you're doing your own mods, the screen can be a little bit skew with, it can be a little bit too far up, too far down, that kind of thing. But no, these brackets help us put them in place. So now that we've got the screen, or at least this part of the screen, all soldered, what we can actually do is very carefully take the screen protector off, like that, and then very, very carefully just stick that in, and it should, with a bit of wiggling, start going into place. Okay, now with the screen in place, what I can start to do is start to attach the screen to the board. So like I said earlier, what you can actually do with these newer IPS screens is you can solder these wires in here like I did earlier, and then connect them to the kind of contacts for the buttons on the main board, and then you'll be able to press the buttons to actually control the main menu of the IPS, which is really, really cool. Now, if I remember rightly, let's switch back to doing a little bit of soldering. So I've zoomed in a little bit here so you can see kind of where I'm going to solder. So basically the main points I want to solder is the select contact, the B button and the A button contact. So with them primed with a little bit of solder here, here and here, what I can do now is actually start wiring it up to the board itself. There we go. Now with all them three in place, the select, the A and the B, we can then start going back to assembling the main board. Okay, so with all them three screws in place, obviously it's worth noting, be very careful when you're screwing in the screws that you don't catch any of the wires that we've just soldered in, because that's the last thing you want. So let's get the back plate on, the black shell, and just be very careful to make sure there's not a lot of pressure on the screen, because the last thing you want to do is to crack the screen. Let's get this screwed in. Whoa, so yep, I had to do a little bit of a jump cut there. Basically, I put everything in as I should do, absolutely fine. The one thing I forgot to do is take out the little battery connector on the actual back of the shell. So I screwed it all in right, didn't forget about anything. It all went quite snugly. But forgot that to take that out, and the easiest way for me to get that out is to take the back shell off. Basically, it's one of these, but it stays on the shell rather than on the board. And the reason we have to take that out is for the Clean Juice wireless charging thing. Now, I've just put this on charge for a bit, so hopefully it's still got some juice. Wow, that took a bit of force to say the least. Yeah, so basically I had to spend some time manoeuvring the coil around, trying to get it in the correct position. I tightened up some of the screws on the inside as well. It's a very tight fit for these Clean Juice batteries. Like the battery kind of cover does stay on, but it's very tight, and it's a very tight fit basically. But no, now that's on. What's worth noting as well is I already gave the battery a quick charge by itself, just to check that it was working, and all the lights lit up. So I'm hoping this all works. Before we get on to kind of the final bits of adding the nice screen lens, which is cut out for this bigger size screen, and adding like the stickers and whatnot, we're just quickly going to test it out. Now I've got going to give it a bit of a clean. I'll also give this a wipe down before we fit anything to it as well. Hey, there we go, look at that. Wow, that screen looks fantastic. Let's quickly get a game in it. Let's get a game in it, and then we can test if all the buttons work, because the last thing I want to happen is any of the wires underneath getting caught on the contacts or anything like that. But yeah, just have a look at that screen. Yeah, it is at least working. Right, left, up, right, down, start, back. Does A do something? We'll soon find out. Let's encounter a Pokemon and find out. What Pokemon do you think it'll be? Mankey, fair enough. A seems to work. Select works, I can change move. Wow, so that all works straight off the bat. I like that. And the little red LED worked as well. Cool. So yeah, so that's kind of all pretty much good to go. All we need to do now is put the screen on, and then the sticker on the back, and then we should have a good looking Game Boy. So I'll come back to the screen later in the video just to kind of show what's so decent and cool about it, but for now I just kind of wanted to test everything was working and everything was as it should be, because the last thing you want to do is do the final parts and it not just bloody work. So we've got some clear adhesive here, because I don't know if I mentioned before, but the glass screen lens I got for this, to try and let more of the red shine through, I actually got a transparent one, so you can see here like part of my finger sticking through the words. So then in theory the red should shine through that as well. Hey, thought about this. So yeah, the best way to do this, let me just spin that around, is get the clear adhesive off and then we'll stick the screen lens on. Okay, so you can see that I've put the adhesive on now, just ready for this lovely new screen lens. It's time for me to start cleaning the screen, just to get rid of any kind of dust. What I've also got here as well, with it being a really decent screen, I've got these cleaning wipes that are meant for like phone screens and all that kind of lovely stuff, and it's just because it's such a high quality screen that I want it to be as good as possible. So I'm just going to take this and then lightly dab wherever my fingers might have been, or a bit of dust or anything like that. We don't need to worry about the liquid too much, as it's just kind of like alcohol based, so it'll just evaporate and not leave any kind of nasty marks or anything like that. There we go. With the screen all clean, let's get this glass screen lens out of its plastic, trying very careful to not touch the actual screen part of it, and then one quick blow on the screen for luck, just to make sure nothing gets in it, like dust or anything. And then very carefully just pop that in like that, and there we go. Make sure it's in nice and proper. I'm going to give it another bit of a wipe down on the front. I'm now also going to be doing the last bit, which is the bit the bit I actually hate the most. I am no good with stickers. I've never been good with stickers, even as a kid, even when like back in the day as a kid when I had to stick stickers on little Lego bricks and things like that. I am just not very good. I have quite naturally shaky hands, but let's see how I get on with this. So let's put that there, let's line it up as best we can, make sure it's straight, and then pop that down. Hey, for me that's not too bad. That's not bad at all. Before I move over to the overview and the pricing and all that lovely stuff, let's go over why this screen is so decent. So I've got Pokemon Red in here at the moment, just a standard Game Boy game, and we're going to turn this on. Now, as mentioned, so I believe the screen is about 15% bigger than a normal Game Boy Color screen. So I've got one here as a comparison. You can see that it's just that tiny bit bigger, but you want handheld screens to be as big as possible, really, don't you? So that's pretty cool. Obviously, you can see that it's colour, and it's looking really, really crisp. Now, it's got a few different features to it that makes it really, really cool. So we can touch up here that changes the colour palette, because it's a normal Game Boy game. You have so many colour palettes to kind of give the game colour where there wasn't colour before, which is really, really cool. And you can pick whichever one you want, and it renders out as best possible. If you tap the right hand side corner, that controls brightness. There's actually 20 levels of brightness, but this kind of rotates through by X amount. Now, the coolest thing about it is because we soldered in the screen to button presses. So for example, the B, the A select, if we press all them at once, we get this amazing little menu here, which allows you to control pretty much everything about the screen. It's a little hard to navigate, so bear with me. Let me just go back up here. So yeah, open the screen. There we go. And you press that, and then what you can do is you can lower the brightness or up the brightness a bit better than using the touch. We can then save that. You can change the position of the screen, so you know, make it move more to the left, more to the top, that kind of thing. You can also adjust the color, kind of like what you've seen before. Now, two really cool things, the pixel effect. So you can have it retro pixel like this, which, you know, tries to simulate it as if it's an old screen, or you can go for more of like a smooth interlaced look, which just looks absolutely really crisp and really cool. Let's save that. And then one other really cool thing for this screen is the battery display. So you might be able to see up in the top right, you can kind of have a battery display to show you how much battery you've got left. Now, I don't actually know if this works too well with the clean juice air, because I've never actually noticed that bar go up or not, or go down with charging or anything. So it's something I'm definitely going to have to look into. But yeah, the screen itself is really, really high quality. It looks, like I say, really crisp, really fantastic. So how do I feel about the build in total? Well, obviously for me, myself, it was a really fun build to do. I don't normally do all the bits and pieces that I've done in this one in all of the range. This one I just wanted to push the boundaries of myself and kind of see what I could make without kind of like going too over the top, and making something that would actually be usable by someone. But even looking at the screen, which cost a hefty price, but we'll get onto money in a sec, looks absolutely beautiful. The shell, because it's Retro 6 like all of these parts are, absolutely quality. It just feels really, really good in the hand. The screen looks immaculate. Everything just feels nice. And then you've got things like you've got your battery in there that will, you know, wirelessly charge and last forever compared to actual batteries, save you having to swap them in and out all the time. Along with the power regulator as well in there that will obviously make sure that the battery lasts way longer than it normally does. Now, obviously, with all of these things comes a bit of a cost. Now, as I've always mentioned on these videos, because I bought the 25 Game Boys for 500 quid, each Game Boy roundabout cost me £20. Now, the most expensive part of this... Okay, so how do I feel the whole build went in as itself? Okay, so how do I feel the build went? Well, obviously for me this was something I really, really enjoyed. I don't normally go this far out and do all this kind of big, expensive, and to be honest, sometimes overkill stuff to the kind of Game Boys like this, because they can be quite hard to sell. But in terms of like the build, it was really, really fun to do. I wouldn't really do it with everything. That screen is just immaculate, and all of these parts are from Retro 6, which again, their stuff is just absolutely quality. You do pay a little bit extra for it, but the customer service you get and the quality of the products themselves are absolutely top notch. Having the wireless battery in there as well, which is a bit of an issue. So I've noticed that basically the battery compartment, because the clean juice is so big, the battery compartment can get a little loose, but I might just hold that down with a little bit of tape. And then we've obviously got the power regulator in there as well, which will make sure that the battery will last way more than if we just left the standard power regulator in there. But, now this is a big but, obviously this cost a lot more money than my builds normally do. So let's talk about money. Now, as I always mention, the Game Boys on all of this series cost about 20 quid because I paid £500 for the lot. Now, the next biggest thing, the biggest thing that cost for this build was the screen itself. Again, this is a Q5 XL IPS screen. It's 15% larger than the normal Game Boy screens. That costs $71.99. That's a lot of money. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a fantastic looking screen, but that's a heck of a lot of money. I also bought the screen bracket in there for £2.58. You can do that without it, but basically my logic behind it is if you're going to spend 72 quid on one of the best screens around, you want it to fit perfectly in, so you don't get kind of any slanting or any kind of it not looking nice and premium. The Clean Juice Air, so the wireless battery charger and the battery itself, all that kind of guff, that was £30. So you know it's maybe a little bit overkill as well, because a lot of people still like to just put batteries in there, or there's a lot of the Clean Juice stuff you can get now which is just USB-C powered. The power regulator as well, that's hidden behind there, that was £7.19. Again, something that you didn't need to have, but it will make things like batteries and the batteries even like this last a heck of a lot longer, and just gives it a lot more clean power to the board and that lovely stuff. Shell was £8.39. Again, lovely shell. Screen lens, I went for a transparent one like I mentioned before. I kind of regret that a little bit because you can't really see it. I was hoping the red would come through a little bit, but unfortunately what you can see is just a little bit of the adhesive. So for the future, maybe if someone wanted to copy this kind of build, maybe stick a little bit of, like, you can get coloured foil to go behind it to make that really stand out. The buttons were £3.40. The red rubber pads, because obviously I wanted them to also be red and kind of look the business, they were £2.23. Then we obviously had to put a back sticker on this thing for £1.90, which again, you might as well just do it for the sake of £1.90. And then obviously we put in a lovely red LED for the power, just to kind of fit with the whole red theme. Now, that's a lot of money. So yeah, in total this came to £152.51. That's a lot of pounds. So what would I think of selling this for? There was no way obviously I'd go underneath something like 180 of this, which is a lot of money. It's a heck of a lot of money for a build like this, but I'll maybe even go lower than that when it comes to listing it, because the whole thing with this is I wanted to be a bit selfish and push how far I could kind of go with it. See how far I could get away with doing things that you wouldn't normally do, like wireless batteries and the best screens around and all that kind of thing. It'll probably take a good while to sell, but whoever gets it, I mean, this is a lovely Game Boy. It's so cool. I wouldn't suggest you do it yourself unless you feel completely comfortable in modding your Game Boy in this way. And obviously if you do have that kind of confidence and that kind of money, you will definitely get one of the most authentic, but at the same time best experiences for a Game Boy you can think of. But yeah, so that's kind of like what I wanted to do with it. I wanted to try and push the boundaries a bit and go about a bit of the norm from what I normally do. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for sticking around if you watched the whole one. Please subscribe. I do this kind of stuff all the time. I'm also on other social medias as well. I do a few lives on TikTok to just clean and have a chat and that kind of thing. But thank you very much for your time, guys. Have a good day.